Okay, I'm going to call the school board meeting to order for November 5th, 2013. And if we could start with a salute to the flag, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do a roll call, please.
Fraser.
Around here.
Keen here.
Kid here.
Hold here.
Okay, agenda revisions, we have a few. We're going to move Roman numeral 10, D, and E to after Roman numeral 7, after public input. And we are going to change Roman numeral 12A is going to be out of non-public. 11, Roman numeral 11A is going to be out of non-public and public. And that's it, I think. So, correspondence. We have a note coming up.
Bless you.
Bless you.
God bless you. Did everybody see the letter from Health Trust? They're looking for nominations for people who might want to serve. Does anybody want to serve?
I could be bribed not to.
It can also be administration.
Kid here.
Is anybody interested?
I didn't get to see the letter yet.
Oh.
Very good.
It's about being on the board of the Health Trust. And I think even if we were to switch health insurance, we still do the retirement through there, right? So, no?
New Hampshire Times.
Is different?
Yeah.
So,
We have
okay.
healthy and dental.
Okay. Anyway, if anybody's interested, you can go online and fill out the nomination form. And then you get put onto it. They look through all the nominees and they pick people. Okay. I wanted, for the record, for the correspondence too, I wanted to let everybody know that we received 7 letters from the public regarding budget concerns, and I've responded to each of them just to let them know that we've read them as a board, and we're taking their concerns into account. And those will be part of the public record, which are right here. So I'll make sure you get those soon. Approval of minutes. Public minutes of October 22nd, 2013. Anybody have any questions?
There is a dangling R at the end of number 4, old business, line 2. And that was it. Everything else I.
So I have page 3, under debt service. There shouldn't be a comma after next year.
Theoretically, yes, I suppose.
Theoretically, yes.
Isn't there a comment there?
No.
There's something there.
There's something on my screen.
Really? I haven't seen anything.
I think it's a
It's not a
period.
smudge.
Well, could be a
I
period.
think it's a period because it starts a new sentence. I think it's good.
Really?
On page 4, Mascenic is M-A-S-C-E-N-I-C.
Sorry.
And I think it should read, Dr. Cox-Buteau said this, I would say, said Mascenic did this recently,
Yes,
right? And then district money should be stricken?
yes, I think that would make more sense.
Okay. And then, I didn't understand this either. In this page 4, under Roman numeral 7, budget transfers, the supplies that were transferred were those that Mr. Sabina wanted that were not coming in, $7,500. Can we clarify that a little?
That had not been ordered.
That had not been ordered?
That had not been ordered.
Okay.
Yeah,
Instead of that were not coming in?
right.
And then leave the 7,500 there, because was it
Yes.
7,500? Okay,
That's close enough.
okay. page 6, the second line, the second paragraph down, there's a parentheses. It should say to choose to put it instead of chose. That's all I have. Anything else? Anything else? Motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll go right to Roman numeral D, which is Facebook page for Ellis School. Did everybody get a chance to look at?
Are you doing public input before or after?
I was gonna do that before. Sorry, public input first.
You need the.
Yep, I'll need the clipboard. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in public input on the agenda items. Sean, Peralt, if you could just state your address and what topic you're gonna discuss.
Sean Pearl, 92 BD Hill Road. I guess I was just wondering if you were going to discuss the results of your, the superintendent interim evaluations that you had sent out, and what, if anything, had been decided on the course for that.
We're having a non-public session, and then after that, we're gonna be discussing the superintendent's search.
So you're gonna have the non-public, and then you're gonna have a public session about the same thing? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. I think that's kind of all I got right now.
Ellen Canty,
I had the same question, so, okay.
Jennifer Brown.
I have the same question.
Okay. This is the time that you would speak on it, though, and give us your opinion on anything that you have to say about it, is during this public input session. That's what this is all about, just so you all know. If you have an opinion that you want us to take into account when we're going into non-public and then coming back out again, this is the time you want to say that,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
okay? Because you won't have another chance, and that's.
Should I speak now, or are we backing up?
Do you want to start over, Sean Pearl
Yeah.
first? Okay.
Sorry, sorry.
That's okay, that's okay.
Just try to get this. the
There's
way
only
it
one non-public, so you want to do it now.
Okay, I guess I would just hope, and that doesn't reflect anything about the job that Dr. Cox has done so far, that we would go ahead and have the full search. Only, I mean, that's my opinion, I just feel that, when we first, because it had taken a course and we needed it in term so fast and there wasn't the ability to do a search at the time, I just feel like we've missed the opportunity to look at everybody and make sure that we have the right fit for the school community. That's all I have.
Okay. Ellen Canty?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Jennifer Brown?
Yep, 3 Squire Road. Just in echoing what Sean said, when I had come to the meeting when Mrs. Lange had given her notice and it had been accepted, one of the things that was said was that the intention was to find someone to fill interim and then put together perhaps a committee or something to do a really full investigation of what we could do going forward. And I guess I was hoping to have more information and be more part of that. And I don't feel like there's really been an opportunity for the community to have a tremendous input just yet. I also felt that when the surveys went out, that everybody was encouraged to participate in, and I appreciate that I didn't have enough knowledge to give a fair evaluation. I put a lot of question marks, just a comment at the bottom, because I'm sure Dr. Cox is a wonderful lady, but I just haven't had an opportunity to know how she works under pressure or a lot of the other questions that were asked on it, just because she hasn't been with us a whole lot of time yet, and a lot of it hasn't been public as to the work that's been done. So as a community member, before I can put a lot of confidence into a person of leadership, I just would like to have more time to know and look at other options and really feel like we're making a strong decision, because I do feel like we need somebody who will be here for a longer period of time to be able to accomplish some of the longer term goals we have, and I don't feel like that decision can be made
quickly and with a small group of people who have had the privilege of working with this person who might be the right fit, absolutely. But that's kind of how I felt about the situation so far.
Okay, thank you. Doreen Caswell?
Doreen Caswell, 83 Deer Run. I was curious about, I know that you have already done, from my understanding, you met Friday night to do the tallies from the community search. Are we allowed to ask that question?
Yeah, you can, yes, we did do the tallies.
Okay, and based off the tallies that you received, can we know what the anonymous tallies were? Because that's community input that has no bearing on what the board itself votes collectively as a group.
We're gonna be going over that tonight.
Okay, and also being on part of, for example, I spent part of the summer being on the vice principal committee search. We met a lot of candidates that were also superintendent worthy and had a very challenging time when we were making decisions and looking at those people. And I think, again, I echo what Jen Brown says, that I think it's only fair we give our school the same opportunity that we gave when considering the vice principal position as well.
Are you
In-
saying, I'm sorry, I
I'm
just
sorry.
want clarification. Are you saying your superintendents applied for the vice principal position?
We had candidates that were very much capable, and I think there were other people that were here that were in that meeting when we did the interviews that certainly were superintendent material, absolutely.
Did they have their tags and all that?
They had their certifications, yes. So we had, I want to say, at least 3 candidates that qualified for that. In addition, I also wanted to state that I think, in all fairness to the school, since we have been, the board collectively, been fiscally responsible in protecting the school and the community, that we do our due diligence in that search. And lastly, regarding the 4th or 5th grade teacher who we could potentially be losing, I'm reading in here that that's still part of, and I know I've written some letters, and I'm assuming this was done prior to. So that being said as well, I think that it's really important that we consider the school, community, the morale, the administration, and how, 5 years in a row, I believe it is, of losing a teacher could be very detrimental to the community and the children as well. Thank you.
Sue Levine?
Sue Levine, 72 Road Drive, Fremont. I am also in support of a full search. I sent in my form as well, but I don't have too much to add to what others have said already on that topic. I think it's important that we find someone that we feel very confident is a good fit, not just with the school board, but with the community and the teachers and administration as well. And I would say particularly having input from the teachers and administration to me, where they'll be working so closely day to day, and hopefully many of them provided input on the forms that will help as you weigh that decision. I did have a couple of questions because I see that the budget is being voted on, and I did review the budget. I took a copy last time and kind of went through it line by line. I would also support keeping the teaching staffing levels that we currently have and the class size that we currently have in our elementary school. I think that I fully support a foreign language teacher. I think it's important, but I would hope that we could find other ways that don't impact the students at Ellis to fund that position. I respect that we want to limit the tax burden on the town, and I support limiting the tax burden on the town. But I would look at things like perhaps the bus contract, which has gone up by almost $100,000 in the past 3 years. Perhaps putting that out to bid again and maybe getting more competition. I know that last time, or at least I heard last time, it was hard to get competitive bids in there, but certainly it's an opportunity where it's gone up so much. Also, the SAU full-on budget has gone up quite a bit in the past 3 years, I think. I thought I'd written it down, but now I'm not seeing it. But anyway, it's gone up significantly. I'd say 100,000 or more, and that might be another area that we could look at for cost savings. I guess what I would say is some way that's not going to impact the learning of the kids at Ellis, and not cutting another teacher at Ellis. If we could try to fund it in some other creative way, I would support that. I also had a question. I was wondering if the teachers, I know the CBA contract is a separate warrant article, but I was wondering if the step increases were in the budget, because I was looking at some salary lines that appeared to be flat year over year, and I just wasn't sure if those step increases were in the budget or not.
The step increases are not in the budget.
I think they happened in the past. Is there a reason why we're pulling them out? Are we putting them as a separate warrant article? Are we not giving step increases this year?
We've been advised by our attorney not to talk about that right now because we're in negotiations. So I can't talk about it.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
as a community member, I would certainly support what we can put in the budget, putting in the budget for the teachers, because I think anything that goes on separately is harder to get past. And also, I think it's hard to look at the budget as a whole if there's something else that's going to be added into it. I know we have to submit it to the budget committee, so understanding and respecting that, with legal restrictions, you can't comment on it, just sharing my opinion that I'd like to see that be included. I know we have a separate pool of raises for non-CBA colleagues at the school, and then we have the CBA contract, so I think for teachers who do qualify for the step, I would support that. And that's what I wanted to share today, so thank you for taking the time to hear the feedback.
Thank you, Sue. Dawn, you have a question mark? Dawn Kidd?
I compose these things as I'm sitting here. Dawn Kidd, I have to thank here, 26 Scrivener Road. I am both a town member and a teacher. And I wish to make a comment as a teacher. A few of you know that I had a really tough day today. We have a lot of committees that we are having to do at the school, and one of the things that I would like the school board to consider is that over the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, for a lot of years we've been cutting the budget every year, and we've cut a lot of positions, I don't know how many. But one thing to remember is every time we cut a position at the school, it's like you take that piece of the pie and you divide it amongst everybody there. I know some of them are related to how many kids there are in the school, but there certainly have been some positions where, okay, we don't have somebody to do this, all right, everybody take a committee, take a little piece of it. Every time that happens, it's a little bit more, and I have to say that the cup ran over today. And I wasn't the only one. There are a lot of teachers right now that are reaching the top and can't handle much more, and I know that, taking a class potentially from 16 kids to 22 kids doesn't sound like much unless you've been in the classroom and know that an extra 5 or 6 kids is a huge load. And if you add that to people right now whose water is at the top of their cup, I don't know what's going to happen. And I know what happened to me today. And I know that I hit a point and I had to back off from some work today, and I don't usually do that. But I had to say no today, and that's a really rare thing for me to say no to something. I just consider too that it does affect everybody. And when teachers run over, like I did today, there's no way that it's not going to affect the kids in turn, because there's less energy that I have to give and to do for the kids. So, just something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Just checking something before we go on, just a second.
If that was the last thing of public input, can I say one more thing?
Sure, Susan.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, you had looked surprised, Ida, when I made the comment about that, Office of the Superintendent line, and I did just double check it, it's page 37 of 57 from what was handed out last time. It was, 250,000 3 years prior, and it's 397,000 now, which is a difference of 147,000, but I actually, when I calculated it earlier, which I still can't see my notes from, I netted out the raise pool, because I didn't think that that was appropriate to factor in as part of the cost of the Office of Superintendent, so that would be about 107 increase. So I just wanted to clarify that comment as I was able to find my notes. And I also wanted to mention that I support including somewhere in the budget some of the items that Mr. Brown had brought forward last time that were regularly scheduled things that needed to be repaired, and there were several that were for 2015, and they were outside of the budget, so I don't know how that's being handled, but certainly, and I think, you know, from what I saw of the preparation that was done of the budget last time and the thoughtfulness with it, I'm sure that you're all thinking that as well, but certainly I support keeping up with the maintenance that Mr. Brown has brought forward, as well as the science lab that was on Principal Safina's wish list. So I just wanted to mention that I support those things. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Ida, if no one else is going to add anything, can I just ask or add a couple more things?
Sure.
Okay.
Just name and address again, just for that.
Doreen
first name.
Caswell, 83 Deer Run. In addition, two other concerns I had was part of the discussion about, you know, cutting a teacher was because of a study that was done. And the study, from what I've read, was done back in 1985. After I received the study, I went through it with quite a fine-tooth comb. And one thing that I found in the study that we're basing some of this information and changes off of was that in these classes, in the middle of the study, they removed what was called incompatible children. They defined them as behavioral children. And this was in 1985, so that, if I'm correct, and could you answer me just so I know, that was pre-inclusion, right? Or pre-having certain students, correct?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, all right. But nonetheless.
I think it might be a moot point
That's
after this
okay.
evening, but
But nonetheless, in this study, it wasn't, for example, about Ella's school. It wasn't about the ideal classes that we're dealing with today. It was putting together classes of ideal children. And you know, that raised a question mark to me, because not all children are the same, and we need to teach towards what our school is doing and what we've always taken pride in doing. And when you look locally, I know there's a school locally right now, and I believe it's in Kingston or East Kingston. One of their classes was up to 21 students. They have since hired another teacher because that was too many students per class. So, and that was in grade 3 or 4, but just to share that information. And my next question is, as far as superintendent search, is there a reason why it has to go full-time? Why couldn't it remain part-time?
It doesn't change the salary, just so you know. We're paying the same exact amount, well, $5,000, which is what we offered Michelle. It was $5,000 more last year.
Well,
When we
salary
offered it Michelle, and we were paying Bill Lander for part-time.
Now, does that change the benefits and everything as well?
Not sure.
I don't believe we paid benefits with the part-time. It depends on how the position is structured. Some people have benefits.
it depends on the individual and the
their
position. It really
retirement
doesn't.
package.
I mean, you
Absolutely.
can hire a part-time and they'll need health insurance, or they might not. You just don't know.
You just don't know.
So, but we are gonna talk about the superintendent search later, so you'll hear the conversation.
Okay, All right, I just wanted to make sure I got everything out there.
And that was, we did get feedback from the 7 people that sent emails in telling us some of their concerns. And so I'm sure when we discuss the superintendent search, those things will.
So I don't have to reiterate all of that.
Not if you wrote it in your email.
It's in the email.
I think everybody read all the emails. Everybody
Okay.
got a copy.
You can read it in person if you want.
Well, it depends on which one.
Tone in your voice.
Yeah, no,
All right.
thank you.
You're welcome. So now we'll go to Roman numeral 10D, which is Kelly, I think, talking about Facebook page.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
Kelly Ford, work at the school, and I'm also a resident here in Fremont. I'm hoping to open a Ellis School Fremont page, an Ellis School Facebook page. The SAU has one, and this last week I've been sending Dr. Cox all kinds of information, pictures and things to post, and I think it's a really positive way to communicate with the community and the parents in another way. That is becoming more and more a part of our culture. My son goes to Sanborn and they have one, and I really love seeing all the stuff that my son doesn't come home and tell me, or might not even know. Might even know from sporting events to just things that went on during the day at school. And I would really love to be able to open a Facebook page for Ellis to put things out there for the community, parents and staff and everybody, if the board deems that appropriate.
Okay. So the SAU has one now, but I don't know what the board would like to do. If we would want to just do one Facebook page and then put stuff on the schools if we have anything. Or if you want to keep 2 separate ones. I don't think there's anything wrong with the school having one. I think
it's
I
a
think
great
Sanborn's
idea.
is great. I am on Sanborn's and see what goes on there.
And they have one, correct?
Yeah, they don't have an
The
SAU one
principal
and
manages it, yes.
Could we put stuff on the
What are
page?
your thoughts?
Would you put stuff on the page for us?
I'd be happy to turn it over to her.
Yes,
I'll
just
send
as-
her, I'll
If we
send
need
her the
anything on
stuff.
the page, would you
She can
put it
post
for us?
The school
we did
board
one-
stuff, I think the
if we
school
did
board
one-
stuff should be on the SAU page. I think the Ellis School should have strictly Ellis School information on it.
I think, either you could post it on the SAU page, have a section for Ellis School, or you could have a link. At least very much would have to have a link to it. Because,
I think it's great to get all that stuff
I
out
think
there.
it's great.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of fun. However, people
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to.
Yeah, I don't think we need to keep the SAU one open if the Ellis School has one, because if there's anything we have to put up, we can just ask them to put it up for us.
Well, as long as-
You'd probably get more
It's
readership.
mostly, right, and it's
Yeah.
mostly the school stuff anyway that we're
And
putting
the
up, it's about
intent-
Ellis.
The intent when we created it was to get the information out to the community about all the positive stuff going on in the district. It
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily, the school board corner. It was, let's talk about everything going on in the school and let's do it through Facebook.
It's more likely to end up on there too if somebody in the school who's taking pictures and is sitting in the office will have a chance to add it, rather than sending it over to the SAU and waiting for somebody over there to do it. It's more direct, and we'll get a lot of good stuff on there.
And we can change the name of it easily enough I checked today to see if we could edit the name of the
Oh,
page,
yeah.
and we can, to make it Ellis School instead of the SAU,
Right.
school, So, if
Now,
it
how do you,
pleases the board,
manage permissions for photos?
Okay, right now, we do have a page that parents, of different permissions, that parents check off, giving permissions. We have 4 students that right now, we have no permissions for photographs. I've called each parent and explained to them that that also includes yearbook. Even though this does say it above, and it does say news media and different things, I would like to create one specifically to add social media and Facebook. Any students that were posted this past week, they had checked off their approval, and I also called and got a verbal for Facebook specifically. But I'd like to send out a new permission form, so they are aware that Facebook is a part of that if they deem that appropriate for their kids.
That would be my only concern is that, there's a lot of people that don't want their kids on the computer, So I'll make a motion to change the Facebook page to the Yellow School page, and you know, let the school manage it under, you know, your, right?
Second.
What do you say we no longer have an SAU page?
No, we'll just have an LSU page.
It makes it easier too when it comes to people that have to go to two separate places to check out what's going on. It's all streamlined in one place.
You're probably also going to have more readership
Yes.
because you'll get all the parents.
Mhm.
on the side. Yeah. So we can ship our stuff down there.
Mhm. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have the password and everything that we can get to you.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and Roman numeral E, which is the modification petition. Basically, I'm gonna go over that briefly here. Per the advice of council, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the modification petition submitted by the Fremont Education Association to formally correct the current certified bargaining unit description to include, quote, all full-time teachers, media specialists, guidance counselors, and nurses, end quote.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that motion passed 5-0, and I will sign that modification petition tonight. And we're gonna move right on to information items. And just choose them before I forget, because many times.
Thank you.
forget.
Thanks.
So I guess we're gonna go straight to administration reports.
Okay.
Superintendent's report is next.
Okay, let's see. I have, basically, it's the only real something in here that is, hopefully it's just newsy. Most of the work has been budget for the past week. Personnel, all positions are filled as of the last meeting. And I talked a little bit about the focus schools process, because we finally met with the DOE to learn more about that. We have a day-long meeting coming up in 2 weeks, I believe. And
I thought it was neat, Betsy, that you mentioned that a lot of the focus schools are high-flying schools.
I don't know if it's a lot, but some of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
People
shouldn't
didn't
say a lot.
expect them. Did I say a lot?
No, I said a lot, I shouldn't exaggerate.
But no, it was completely random regarding socioeconomic or test scores or anything in terms of the regular population. It has entirely to do with the gap between socioeconomic, special education, and the state average. So it's just that 10% of schools that have the deepest gap between them. So it's an interesting designation, but you know, there's work to do and to lessen that gap, and that's what they're here to do. And now that we can access the money, they're interested in us, which is interesting because she said, okay, now that you've got the money, we'll come down. So it was interesting to hear that, and then they weren't going to give us any assistance unless we had been able to accept the grants. So,
Good that we got it.
yeah.
And then we have a total of 432,000 grants that we can't accept because of our 19820 issue, right?
Right, exactly.
$432,000 in grants, not 432,000 grants.
Oh,
Just so
right,
you know.
sorry.
I just want to
Is that what it says, 432,000 grants?
Yeah,
It's $500,000 almost. Sorry.
Did we
I don't
get,
usually miss dollar signs.
did we get the conference grant, the focus school conference? Did we get that?
Yes,
We did get that.
we got that
Oh.
approved.
Right.
Yeah, the conference grant, we didn't get, it's the
Oh,
one
I'm
above that,
sorry.
the focus school grant should be taken out of there, you are correct.
Right.
But the conference grant we did not get, because that was over the summer, and it
Oh,
had
that's
to be done over the summer, so that was
Right,
lost.
you did all that.
There were also a number of other grants that I had in here that you had sent me at one point, and do you still have that email somewhere? I was
Yeah.
trying to find it and I couldn't, I'd like to add them back in,
All right,
so if you could get that to
I
me,
can send you more too, right?
that'd be great. I'll just keep on building them,
All
the
right.
spreadsheet. Yeah, and I sent you the turnaround principles, and the two that we're supposed to focus on here are 1 and 5. One being providing strong leadership, and the other one, to use data to inform instruction. Those are the two big ones.
Any questions for Betsy? All right, on to principal's report. Are we, JR, are you getting to the principal's report?
I'll give a little summary of, the first part of it, we see the science kneecap update. The fourth grade teachers looked at the data to see what they taught and how well they taught it and where they might need to add more data. The fifth grade team looked at the data to see what their kids currently know and how to adjust their curriculum that way. The data, they're really looking hard at it, trying to find what pieces will help inform instruction and do that. Mr. Safina was beyond thrilled when we got the NEWA scores, and you'll see the percentage of reading has gone from last year's fifth grade was at 50%, 56% growth, to this year when they took it, it jumped to 70% growth. So, awesome job on our fifth and sixth grade teachers. And then if you look at, and that's for reading, 42 in the, or 54 in the seventh grade, and they took a little dip of growth, but we're still excellent because if you see the box, there's the orange, the green. The orange that you see is, they are still proficient, but they didn't meet their targeted growth. So they could be all the way at the top of the scale and you can't move anymore over. So that's one of the issues we face. And when John found that stuff, I think he told everyone in the building because he was so thrilled with both our reading and our math scores. Then preschool data, we got the 3-year data. Do you want to talk a little bit about Bridget's thing or your? We saw tremendous growth in that, and that goes to our preschool teacher who does an amazing job in her team. We have to thank the guidance counselors and the front office for an awesome Red Ribbon Week. We had 94% student and faculty participation in that, which on Friday the staff and students should know what the clue cluck cluck means. It should be interesting. The elementary school students got to see me get a pie in the face on Friday for participating. So we had a lot of fun last week with that.
Did you finish telling them who else got the
I know.
pie? You really need to finish that story.
And
Who else got the
as impromptu,
Sarah?
no,
No, I made it very clear that is not acceptable.
Mrs. Sabina also received a pie in the face,
Oh, yeah.
impromptu, so.
He was gonna come over and hug me, and I was like,
And then the Halloween candy buyback, right now we have 14 boxes, copy boxes in my office waiting to be shipped off to the troops that came in.
Nice.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a great week.
Will it be 13 by the time it actually gets into the door?
No, it's 14.
No, we're holding Mrs. Farrar at bay.
The other thing that we didn't put in here though is next Tuesday we do have the Veterans Day Assembly coming up, and we have invited veterans from the community, as well as there's currently the penny war going on in the middle school, and that money is going to be donated to Liberty House, which is a homeless shelter for veterans up in Manchester. So that's what's going on right now.
and I just like to say too, as a former guidance counselor for a long time, and I did my share of Red Ribbon Weeks and all that, and I've worked in a lot of districts. This last week was phenomenal. The staff did an amazing job, the guidance folks did an amazing job, and what a boost in morale. And by the end of the week, people who didn't normally participate and get silly and stuff were saying, what are we gonna dress up as next week? So it really, we're thinking about what we're going to do next.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
I've had several people come up to me towards the end of last week and the beginning of this week to tell me that they've been here for 10 years, 13 years, 15 years at that school, and that it's the best week and highest morale and different things during that week that they've ever experienced in their time there. So it was an excellent week. The kids enjoyed it and the staff as well.
Thanks for recording with so many great pictures too.
You're welcome.
Maybe we need another color.
Could do one for every culinary.
See, great,
The scores are very, very good. It was really nice to see this in the packet. I mean, I just am thrilled with how well we're doing with our testing and the kids learning. The student learning is definitely improving. It's great. Anybody else have any comments about that?
Good job, good job. Can I share this, or is that later?
Actually, it's now,
Okay.
because you were, the science kneecap was in here.
Right, yeah, I just wanted, there was an article in Union Leader, and I just want to share, because we had some discussion when the kneecap scores were brought up about the dearth of people throughout the state that are highly proficient. And John spoke about that there's problems with the testing. Well, I just want to read this article from the New Hampshire Union Leader, dated Monday, October 28, 2013. And what they did is the National Center for Education Statistics, they did a study, and they actually compared states not only with each other, but internationally. And it says in mathematics, New Hampshire 8th graders placed 10th internationally and 5th among states. Students from South Korea were first, followed by Singapore, China, Hong Kong, Japan, and then the states of Massachusetts, Vermont, Minnesota, New Jersey, and New Hampshire. So that certainly says something. And then in science, New Hampshire 8th graders were ranked 7th internationally. And the reason why I speak to that is because, you look at the kneecap, and it looked like we weren't doing that well. Because there's 1% of students met highly proficient in the kneecap. And yet, internationally, as a state compared to other countries, we placed 7th in the world. So that's pretty good. And 3rd among states. Students from Singapore were first, followed by Massachusetts, China, Vermont, South Korea, Japan, and then New Hampshire. So I just wanted to share that. It's certainly something to think about, that now we're living in a state that, in a school that's improving, in a state that compares favorably against other countries around the world.
Yeah, we should probably put that in the minutes,
Sure.
that article, make a copy of it. I just had a couple questions on the principal report. There's bullet point number 2. It says, we are currently reviewing the fiscal year 14 budget for money to purchase grade 5 science textbooks. Does that mean this year's budget? Do you see where I'm? Oh, it's up further. It's
It's right here.
Yep, no, it's there. And then we are looking for either signed supplemental text, so it may not be like a comprehensive textbook, but supplemental from this year.
But this year's budget,
This year's
money.
budget,
Okay.
this year's
And do
money.
we have money in those lines for that?
That I don't know if we,
We're suing you here.
Oh, I actually,
But that's partially what we've been moving around.
Is that the?
That's part of
okay,
the-
those are the science things you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, then yes, that's part of that
It
7,500.
goes
Oh,
along with the
okay,
next
okay.
bullet point,
Yeah.
I believe.
All
That's
right.
part of the 7,500.
good. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have another need
I didn't know
there
if
that
there
we
was
didn't
something
know
else
about.
going on.
yeah, no, that's part of the,
The orders are going in, so.
so.
And then there's the last bullet, as part of reviewing the data, it became apparent that our students are hindered by a lack of working science labs for inquiry tasks. We need a sink and eye wash station in grade 6. Is that on the wish list, or is that?
That actually, we're hoping to get done over February vacation this year. So
Okay.
there was funds for that to hopefully get done over February vacation.
Okay.
Scott Brown
Scott.
listed that
Yep.
in his,
Yeah.
For the 6th grade
right,
Yep.
the sixth grade, right.
lab, okay. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure that we have it. Did anybody else have any other questions for the principal's report?
No,
So the remodel of 7th and 8th grade science lab is something that we're talking about time to time, right?
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure that wasn't coming down as well,
Yep.
and I missed it.
We haven't found the 50,000 in the budget yet. It'd be nice.
Give me a minute.
All right. On to Sarah's report.
I just wanna, now we're talking about, I just wanna keep reminding people that if there is something that's needed and it's not in the budget, and school board think it's essential, we still have the Frost Trust Fund, which has about $7,000
Right, we need to
that we
keep that.
can use for educational purposes. So I think, we should keep that in mind.
Okay, Sarah's report.
So there's been some questions and focus on the parent involvement survey data, and I just wanted to report that we had the special education professional learning community that we meet every Friday. We did have a discussion about it this past Friday. We are going to be setting a SMART goal around, in particular, getting evaluations and paperwork and IEPs out. Our goal would be to have it be a week ahead of time. We haven't made the goal yet, but I wanted to just share that a couple of the staff went above and beyond this week on their own time. I know it was Jackie Driscoll, Suzanne Cahoon, and I think they told me it was one more person, so I apologize for not remembering who that was. But they actually took some of the ideas that we talked about in how to collect data as well and created a survey. And one of the ideas was too is that the survey, based on how their meeting went and whether they got their evaluations, could then actually go back to like JR, so that, he doesn't know this yet, so that, so that they would feel that there was a level of confidentiality and things like that. And they just, I just like to give them a big thank you for getting that process started. And we've been talking a lot about getting that information out, because in order to have really meaningful input in a meeting, it's not just about what we say and what we're saying at the meeting and how well we express ourselves, but it's giving parents the opportunity to review the paperwork ahead of time. And we do this, these are things that you don't hear about, we send things home. We do follow-up calls and emails. We do more of a user-friendly like outline for some parents if they ask to. And if they have questions ahead of time, we try to get those answered so that when we get to the meeting, we can really get into the nuts and bolts of things.
So that would be filled out by the parents or the
That's-
staff?
That was the intention, that this would be filled out by the parents. This is just an idea that they had, but it kind of highlighted those 6 areas with, Becky had done the,
Right, this Excel spreadsheet.
The Excel
that we all got a
spreadsheet.
copy of that.
and so it would address all of them. This one would be a shorter one, and we could just literally check it off at the meeting
Mhm.
and saying, yes, I did get this paperwork. Sometimes, we didn't. Why? Well, maybe we were up against the deadline and the parents were totally fine with that. Maybe, our computer system was down for an entire week. I don't know. Not that that would ever happen.
No, never.
So it's just a suggestion, so when we get back together this Friday, this will be a point of discussion. Because one of the things that we do, and Betsy points out as well, which is true, is we're here to serve the kids, but there's a level of customer service that's involved in what we do as well. So we want to make sure that everyone's participating as meaningfully as possible. And then I just thought you might be interested in what was going on at Seacoast Charter School. I do not have any other information for you. And just listed off some upcoming events. And Brenda Fabrizio, our school psychologist, had made a list of things for disposal. Is my understanding, we need to kind of get that approved. Free.
What are these? Are these like forms
These are all forms that
that she uses?
Yeah, they're out of date. Things have been ordered, they didn't get used or whatever in years, so she's in that little tiny office, so
So she's gonna throw this stuff out.
yeah, so it's all boxed up and labeled and it's out in storage right now and she would like to throw this out. I just said, we make a list of it and we needed to check with the board
Right,
first.
and these are not completed forms, these are blank forms that we just never used.
Right.
I guess we'll take a motion to destroy these.
Motion to,
Just, we don't have to shred them or anything, we can just toss them.
Well, they're
right?
empty. Yeah, they're
Tossed.
Yeah.
blank. Okay, motion.
motion to allow the phone to be tossed.
Second.
All those in
Throw 'em
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very formal motion.
I don't even know if we need it.
I don't know, but it'll make everybody feel better.
Yep.
Toss the
Yeah.
phones, get rid of them.
What's New Hampshire ALPS assessment evidence collection window begins?
Well, that's I was just looking for stuff to put on there, but it's interesting, the New Hampshire Alps, that's the alternative ECAP that some of our children take, where it involves the videotaping. And although we don't have to register the kids that are taking the Alps until sometime in late February, early March, we could actually start filling out the forms with parent permission and collecting the kind of data and stuff that we need when that window opens. So that it's, what it does is gonna help some of the case managers not have to try to fit it in. And some of our kiddos love to be videotaped and some of them don't. And you have to really work at that. And then there's the whole, not only are they special education teachers, but they're also media editors on top of it. So it's a whole new skill.
Any questions for Sarah? Thank you, Sarah. And we have the technology director's report. Is there any way in this report we could get data on the number of outages each month and the reasons for the outages?
I spoke with Carla today, and the Comcast, we have ascertained that it is not internal in the building at this point, it's Comcast. I have talked with Sue about simply not paying them for the days that the service is down, because they will accept that, so we will be tracking it, and we can turn that into the board each month. And docking their pay. Hopefully that'll make a difference.
So it isn't our equipment though, failing?
They've been through 2 modems, and there were some connections that were cleared up, and there was one line that went nowhere, basically ended and nothing had happened with it. And there's one area that has a drywall ceiling that they can't get to, that Carla talked about, and I said, well, maybe we're gonna have to take it down. You know, there might be nests building, mice building a nest in the technology corner up in there to find out what's going on. But they've been tracing the lines. But I talked to her about Daystar, and it's been Comcast, so.
Okay.
But we certainly can collect that information for the board.
If there's any consolation, the state of Massachusetts uses Verizon, we have constant and continued outages
Yeah.
throughout the state and statewide. So it's really so endemic in this service.
Yeah.
Does the pizzeria go down too?
Not this last time that we're aware.
But sometimes.
Somewhere,
But it
yeah,
has gone down a number of times. I asked Carla if the Pizza Hut place had gone down, and she said she hadn't checked. So we're not aware whether or not they did.
But they haven't been.
Yeah, they have gone out when Nellis has gone out, so it's gotta be something in that area.
Any questions about Carla Smith's technology report?
Yeah, what's a Prezi account?
Cressy is kind of like PowerPoint, only a little different.
What it is, it's a way for students to do a PowerPoint, but it's more interactive and it can bounce from one to another. And then it focuses in on a particular
It's very
thing
cool.
and you can focus it back out.
It's very cool, but it can crash too.
Yeah.
After you've built a really awesome thing, it just goes away, so. But it is pretty cool. I've never seen it. It's fun. You do all kinds of neat things. report for November 5th from Mr. Brown.
Okay, well, Mr. Brown is back. Today was his 60th birthday.
Oh,
He was in fine form, feeling pretty good. Going around and checking on, when I spoke to him this morning, he was in great spirits and said he's just getting around to make sure that everything, he's seeing what has happened since he was out and checking on stuff. We're cleaning the oil tank. There's some sludge in the oil tank, and you can clean it while the oil's in it, so that's happening. We're making that, getting that taken care of. But other than, that's the only thing I don't think that's in here that he's been dealing with, and he dealt with that from, I guess, the couch at home, so. Everything seems to be under the
So I guess it's up to you, Sue. Sue Penny.
There's an attached financial report through October 30th. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but there's also in your packet a $32,955 transfer, and it is going from the general fund to the Fed funds, because if you recall, all the Fed funds were budgeted in the general fund last year. This will be the last transfer that will complete the IDA being in Fund 22. John and I, and maybe JR, will be working over the next month or two to likewise transfer the Title 1A and the Title 2A grants into Fund 22, which we will keep track of all the grants from now on is in Fund 22. They should be in their own fund. For audit purposes, for if we ever got audited even by the feds, they should all be in their own fund. And also, I have contacted the Department of Education in Washington to get our REAP award, and we have $42,723 for our award this year. That also needs to be transferred from the general fund into Fund 22, and we'll probably spend that.
What's REAP again?
Rural education, I'm not really, I forget,
Oh,
yeah,
Assistance
but it's,
program.
yeah, assistance
Assistance
program,
program.
that's exactly it. So, we got about, it looks as though you got about the same amount last year. So that's one of the things that I'll be working on, is transferring all those federal projects into their own fund. I'm also have looked at all the payroll and the related encumbrances, meaning the FICA and the New Hampshire retirement, and those encumbrances are now correct. So any variances you see are probably true variances. There's one in particular in the regular education line. It's only about $12,000, but there are a few teachers that are slotted to have track movement later on in the year, so that'll probably absorb a good portion of that. Let's see. I'm also working on the revenue procedure here, trying to get all those classified in the right spots as well. We have been working quite a bit on budget the last few weeks, so that has taken up some time. I also had to resubmit the DOE 25. Worked on that, I think I told you guys last night on Saturday. And we also last week, Kelly left, but we had our food service review, and most of it was positive. There are a couple of things that we're gonna have to, we know that are wrong. For instance, there's a verification process that you have to follow, where you tally up the amount of free and reduced lunch applications, and then a certain percentage of those have to be sent out to verify that they are in fact free and reduced eligible.
It's an odd
That,
process,
right.
yeah.
The whole process is supposed to be completed by November 15th, and last year the letters didn't go out until sometime in February. So there was a finding for it, but basically because I responded right away to them the day they were here, acknowledging the fact that we knew we were out of compliance, and agreed to do to the best of my ability to get them out by November 15th of this year, they said it was okay. And there were a couple other likewise findings where we were just a little bit out of compliance due to a date or some other very minor procedure. But all in all, they had pretty good things to say about us. So that's it, unless anyone has a question on the financial statement.
I just had a couple of specific questions on the lines, Sue, which I don't need an answer tonight if you don't have it.
Okay.
You can always get back to me, but when I printed this, I ran it. I'm gonna have to go by function and.
That's fine.
Okay, so function 1400, 5112 and 5113.
Okay, what's all the money?
It's athletic extracurricular.
5112 and 5113?
Yeah.
Yep.
See the amounts, it looks funny, like something's being charged wrong there. Like we're over encumbered.
Yeah, and what, yeah, I
It
think,
looks like some of those probably belong in 5112.
okay, I can look into that.
Yeah.
I know Yvonne made some encumbrances there last pay period, so I can check with that, so 5112 and 5113.
Yeah, I have a feeling
Yeah, I
some
know
that
what you're
belong in
saying.
5112 should be in 5113.
I agree,
Yeah.
probably.
And I don't know if I have anything else, honestly. I think that was the only thing I noticed. Did anybody else have anything?
Yeah, one question.
Other than the stipend, I will move that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That question just gotta go there on, I think it's number 43,
Line 43?
line 43, yeah.
Did you mean the retirement stipend? Or-
Yeah.
That was from last year though, right?
Oh, that's right, but it's not showing up as, no, you're right.
That's from the
Yep,
previous
sorry.
year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the budget, it shows up on the budget.
And then we'll have to encumber one for the person who's retiring.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
42 or 43?
43, oh no, I don't know. The numbers I have don't match. I had an increase
It's just
in,
so small, how can you read that?
page 5, there's something about an increase in workman's comp I wanted to ask about. Maybe line 43, because line 43 is not.
Workman's comp is 41.
41, is it 41? Oh, where's it, yeah.
What about it?
Okay. Yeah, there's a $1,413 increase in workman's.
There's a
comp
variance
special
remaining.
education, yeah. So what was that about?
I'm honestly not sure. Those encumbrances, let's see. The budget,
We may have to get back.
yeah, those budgeted figures could be a little bit off. It's oftentimes kind of hard to budget workers' comp. Basically, what I did this year was I took the total, I don't know what formula they used last year, but I basically I kind of backed into it. I took our bill and took a percentage of everybody's pay to the bill. But I'm not sure what method they used last year.
Right.
So in total, workers' comp might be right if you run it by object, and so
Right.
it might be, I can do that for you though.
Okay,
Run it
good.
by object and see if in total we're right, and
Right.
just in this particular function you could be off.
All right.
So workers' comp by object.
Okay, anybody else? Any other questions? Thank you, Sue. All right. Enrollment report. Anybody have any questions about the enrollment report? Ellis is up 2 students, and Sanborn is steady. So we'll go into old business, Q&A from previous
I
meetings.
think we covered most of that last night.
Okay. Fiscal year 15 budget review, principal and special education budgets. I had one little note here too, just for revenue. We've mentioned E-rate a couple of times, so we don't want to forget E-rate in our revenue, right? When we project our revenue.
That's right. Okay.
Just a thought, because it's never been in
Yeah,
before.
that's right.
No,
because-
so I would hate to miss
And I
it.
handed her last year's revenue sheet and it wasn't on it, you're right. So
You're
you
right,
put it
yeah,
in.
and we really hadn't done much more after Carol looked into it initially,
That's
yeah,
correct. So we'll make a note and put that in.
yep.
So, everybody has a copy of the budget.
Yeah, that's it.
Ida, can you tell us what E-rate stands for?
I mean, I can pretend to know what I'm talking about, but basically, you get a rebate from the telephone company of your school.
Well, it's a whole website, you can actually look it up. It's basically, but you get a refund from this organization based on what she's talking about, based on your phone bill and your internet connection, and your free and reduced population plays into how much you can get. There's a whole formula and there's a whole website you can go to. Just Google E-rate and it'll explain it probably a lot more in depth than I can pretend to know.
It's fun to be used on technology.
Yeah. So how do we want to do this? Should we throw questions at you, or do you want to give us a little?
Summation, why don't you go looking at it line by line, if there's any great variances in the lines by percentage.
There's also another copy of this on the.
I had one, I have a question.
Sure.
On page
One
36,
copy on
there's $4,000 under the other line, there's supposed to be that one. I know, but line 269, it just says other SEU.
It's on the next page, I think.
That's in the ask,
Yeah,
that's in the ask fee.
That's, all right.
It's at the top of
but
the.
it's on the
Oh,
top, yeah, it's on the
I
next
don't think it's
page.
okay.
Do you think, people should be aware of the new GME from
GMR.
GMR,
from, the impact that's gonna have on our budget?
sure.
From Sanborn?
Yep. See if it blows back in my face. We received the guaranteed maximum rate from Sanborn over the weekend. And the tuition rate for our students is going up close to 15% as a maximum. Now, that's the maximum guaranteed rate. Historically, it's come in about 3% lower than that, but that still means 12%. Couple of reasons, I went back and forth with Carol Coppola over there. A couple of reasons are that they're down 31 students next year, so there are fewer students for the full cost, so the division, of course, is going to be a higher tuition rate. And there's also a new collective bargaining agreement that's costing them $1.1 million across the district, so those two things are the major. There's also some changes in utilities, and there's some new textbooks and electronic contracts that are being purchased for those. Those are not as big as the drop, the ADM drop and the CBA, but it's up 15%. So we're looking at, how much money was that?
It's about 400,000 roughly.
445,000.
Yeah, we reduced it by a couple of students.
Yeah.
So- When we
But
look at our,
it's over 17,000.
when last year when they did the budget,
Tuition is.
especially when we presented the budcom, they presented it in an Ellis budget, Sanborn budget, so we didn't kind of muddy the water with Ellis. I'd like to make sure we just kind of focus on that,
Sure,
it's Sanborn what it is, but,
right.
Yeah,
we can do a figure that separates out the cost of Sanborn. We can
so
even
they
do a
can
pie
see that
chart. and we
Ellis
can see
isn't
the
doing
pie.
them up, it's,
Yeah, and do some comparatives so that they can see the differences between the
Yes.
two budgets. We'll make sure we put that in the book.
Alice is up too, both are up.
it is, but it's not 12%.
No, no.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when we start to get the budcom, it's,
Yeah, both the high school and the Alice school budget are up.
Yeah, I know, but it seemed to help a lot last year when we broke it apart, said, this large increase, the majority of it to our overall budget was Sanborn.
It's what you have control over and what you don't
That's
have
right.
control over. Yeah.
So, I mean, in this, did we have the updated figures in this budget proposal
Updated for,
for Sanborn?
Yes,
we,
Because this is
with the
9 point.
conversation with Ida, we took out 4 of the 6 placeholders.
All right.
And so we're down to 2 placeholders in there, figuring that the risk is reasonable that it will drop from 15%, and so there will be some buffer in there. There's also in the warrant request a capital reserve fund to create a capital reserve for high school tuition. If we were able to fund that, we could drop down to just funding as many students as we know we have and not have to put in, any extras. And we could use the capital reserve. But we don't know what will happen with that for this year, so we'll kind of have to fund both.
But the answer to your question is basically because we have more students this year than we do going next year.
Right.
Like, right now, we pay for, I think, 236 is what, and this is for 221, I
We're
think.
dropping
223,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're dropping 9 students.
yeah, so that's why,
It's only 9%.
yeah, exactly, because there are less pupils. So in total, the percentage is less, but the cost per pupil is almost 15%.
Right, yeah, so we're looking at what, $330,000
Right.
increase.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, that stopped the conversation.
Just seems so high,
It is.
15%.
And
Last year
that's
it was
worse than
7.5%, and they had the contract then. The CBAs were on their docket last year, so they would have had to do the cost.
There might have been a higher cost the second year,
I think there might have been.
I
I went to that
That's what
deliberative
Carol
session, but it was expensive.
But historically, when they give us the like I did a little spreadsheet that shows, we get the
Yeah.
GMR letter.
gave that to you
yeah.
last night.
But, these folks don't, and it's really come in at within 5%. Like last year, it was within 4.34% of the GMR, so.
Hi, can I ask a question? Or no? No?
Technically, I'm not gonna open the waterfalls here, so
Okay,
go
no.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, is there something where the Board of Ed, you could go to the Board of Education and say, can we do an audit? I don't know what that experience is like. Can you do an audit and say, this is what we have for kids? And can things be, I didn't know if they stepped in certain instances in small communities.
Well, we have a tuition contract for 20 years, and
Okay.
if they're abiding by the contract,
Okay,
there's not a lot you can do unless you they're willing to open negotiations with us perhaps, or something like that.
right.
We are going to talk a lot about that as a board because of the increase, and because it's already been in the works. We just have put some things on hold while we've transitioned from superintendent and the financial administrator and everything else. But yeah, we're gonna look at options for the district and see what's what. We're 10 years into the contract, so we only have 10 years left. But, there are ways to try to address it if it becomes difficult to
Absolutely,
afford.
yeah. I was just trying to give an idea if it would help.
Yeah.
Do their taxes go up the same percentage as our share?
15%.
Yeah.
Because their taxes are based on their entire SAU budget, as opposed to our taxes are based only on the high school budget. So there's a little bit different the way it plays out.
Newton's part of the co-op, and their
Yeah.
taxes go up more than Kingston's even,
Yes,
and
they
then
do.
ours go up more than both of theirs. So, yeah.
Sue, can I, I'm probably just a little tired, but,
We all
so,
are.
if I have two questions. If I look at the bottom line of this new budget, right,
Yep.
and I'm looking at, 2013-14. You have 11,082,530. Does that include, that does not include the monies from the warrants, right?
Yes, no. Go to this page, Sharon. Go to this.
Yeah, go to
And
that
then it
submission
will.
sheet.
The back sheet.
Oh. So, I'm looking at the warrant from last year, and maybe
Are you talking about the $68,000 warrant?
I'm looking at the budget warrant
Oh, the budget.
that was voted in March.
Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead, what's that figure? Because-
11,265,715.
Okay, so that's right. But what
Is that
this,
the grants? Is that
it's the
food
grants
service,
and
I
the
mean?
food service. If you,
Okay.
and don't forget, there's 70, I've only transferred out, when we go back to my notes of this evening, I've only transferred out 75,000 of those grants.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't mixing things up, and that was my other question, was the para insurance
That's in here.
is in here,
At max.
right, so the para insurance is part of this, 104,519 figure that's on page 5, correct?
Yes.
So, does that mean that $62,000 that was voted in,
68 or something,
that's in here? I mean,
That
it's in here as an expense, is it in here as a,
budget, yes.
so so that is in that bottom line number, correct?
It's in,
Because that bottom line number looks like what we started with before all the warrants. And so that's why I just want to make sure that if we're counting it as an expense, we've also added the warrant amount.
if you, the best thing to do is what I just said, is to look at that kind of summation sheet, which you folks don't have, I apologize. If you look at that number, that's the total number. And if you take this 11,082,530, and you add 170,700 for food service.
Yeah.
And then 210,000, I mean, 210,3, is that what the grants were, or 203? Okay, now. Minus the 74,000 I already transferred. Keep all that straight.
Yes.
So, okay, so if I look at this form and I take the 11,082 and then add the 177.
Yep,
For food
170,700, that's correct.
Then the 75,465 are the other warrant articles that we voted
No,
on? That's
the 70, then you also have to add to that, the 75,000 that I transferred out for Fed funds. Remember, I began my process of transferring the federal funds into their own 22 fund.
That's for this year, right? So I'm looking at your summation.
Okay,
So
so
that 75,465 is what? That says
Is-
grant slash other funds. What is that?
hold on a minute. Thank you. So the,
Second column.
what sheet do you want now? This,
The back sheet of 2 pages.
Yeah, the
Okay.
second
Okay,
sheet,
I
the
see it
second
now.
column. I just wanna know what's that 75,000 is that?
that 75,465 is the IDA grant that I've transferred thus far, out of the general fund.
Okay, so then,
So cause it's in Fund 22 right now.
okay, so then where is the $68,000 for the para insurance?
It's in the 11,082,530.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yes.
That was my question,
Yeah,
it's in
yeah.
there, okay.
Cause see, now that I see what you're talking about, the 11,082,530 is everything except for those things that you see below. Out of that 11,082,530, I still have to take approximately another 135,000 and transfer that to the
To
line.
Fund 22.
That's correct.
I got it, okay, so it'll match up with the 210,7.
That's correct.
whatever. Okay,
Yeah,
all right, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding.
no, yeah, and I'm glad because it's very complex, honestly.
The parent insurance was 62,980.
Okay,
That's
62, yeah.
62, yeah.
Yeah, I just have a question. The budget gave us last week, I know it didn't include everything. We had an increase of 138,618.50. And in this budget you presented to us had an increase of 589,437.71. I assume part of that is you added in food service
That's Sanborn tuition.
That's not, is that all Sanborn, that's all Sanborn tuition, that increase?
I made
I know
adjustments.
Sanborn tuition.
Today I made
Okay.
adjustments for the regular ed tuition and the special ed tuition for Sanborn.
Right.
I also, there was some testing,
For the
under.
EA, K to 8 instead of
That's
EA.
correct, but that was very minor, that was like
Right.
$1,000.
Right.
And I believe those were the only changes that I made today from the budget that you had last
So the
evening.
biggest changes are from Sanborn.
Absolutely. Yeah,
$415,000.
So-
right, but we reduced that a little bit, we reduced that by 2 students. But then last night, we never talked about the sped increase, which was in the 40s, so yeah, it's probably ended up being,
A wash, yeah.
Yeah.
Does this include, does this fund line also include our, money we'll be spending out of the grants?
not
Fund
this
10.
one, but this
Fund
one,
20.
this little
Fund
2-pager.
20,
Yeah.
So on this 2-pager, the 589, 437, 71, that's the increase that we're looking at, that includes the Sanborn and other things that's from our budget, that's what that number is?
The 589, 430,
7,
yep,
71,
that includes your increase in your general fund expenditures,
as compared to last year.
as compared to last year.
And that includes Sanborn and the other thing that we,
It includes
okay,
everything to date.
okay. So,
But the
The total increase in our budget, apples to apples, is $744,520, am I not right?
That is what I was about to say.
That's the answer, Greg, that you're
Yeah.
looking for, is that the total increase in our budget is $744,520.
so if I take the 330,000 from the Sanborn Public High School line, how's that 744, that gives an increase in the Ellis budget?
I guess if you're technically, yeah, if you're
You have to
gonna
take
want
the
to
special ed tuition
So,
out
so
too.
once
That
the,
increase
once the
too.
grants come out of the general fund, that 11,082 number is gonna go down by
That's
the
correct.
other, and so that's gonna show
That's
a bigger
correct.
number than 589.
That's
And then
correct.
the 135,000 is gonna probably net to close to zero.
That's correct, yeah, that's very correct, yeah.
So do you know off the top of your head, how much the Ellis budget went up, $5?
If you just do the 330.
Well,
610.
You just take that, just subtract
yeah, you just
the,
take the Sanborn, it's,
Sanborn
I mean,
tuition.
Sanborn went up in total about 400,000
Well,
approximately.
it would be more than just that, though, I mean.
It's also the insurance.
It's also
Yeah.
the special ed services that we have.
Oh, right, that are
Yes,
linked with
so
Sanborn,
there's-
that's
yeah,
right,
so
so
there's
it's
a
not
whole-
real easy.
It's
It's
not-
just-
That, you'd have to run it by the whole, I think it's 30, is it 30, the extension?
Yeah, but yes, you're
Yeah.
right, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the easiest thing to do is you, like Ida had just said, the budget went up by about 744,000.
And Sanborn
In
is
total.
500,000 of that, yeah.
Yeah, at least 400,000 of that is your Sanborn tuition.
And then your special ed.
And also, the health insurance costs
And
went
health
up
insurance.
because we had a 9.2.
No, I understand, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to figure
Yeah,
in my
what
head,
Ellis
how
is.
much did Ellis go?
Yeah,
I'm
well,
saying it's
We
out
could
there.
get you that figure so that you can have it for
tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Sanborn's
Next.
tuition increase is $353,423.98.
And regular ed as.
And special ed.
Okay, and sped.
Okay, so
Would-
Sanborn tuition rate is $353,423.98 up over last year's cost.
So where
With the
are you pulling
GMR.
that number?
Oh, right,
I
yeah.
took the regular ed tuition, let me just give you the line numbers.
Okay.
That'll be easier for you.
But it's actually, yeah.
Line 14,
Yeah,
the
I think
change.
it's more than that, because you're, sorry.
We
Line
can get
14.
you that.
Right.
Okay, the difference, see the difference there?
Yeah.
Okay, and then, I mean, there's probably more as well, but I'm just doing the big ticket ones.
yeah, I'm just,
And then line
There's something for special ed too, right?
Is that right?
Line 47.
9.15.
That's what I should explain, that's because you have
less
less
students.
students going
next
to
year.
Sanborn next year than you did this year.
The class size is 39 plus 4
Right,
charter
but
school
I
kids.
thought our increase was 15%.
It is.
It is per
We
student,
don't have the same number of
I got you.
students.
but we don't have the exact same number of
Okay,
students
all
going.
right, that makes sense, okay.
So then, line 47, Greg,
yeah,
the percentage change column.
Yep,
That's, you wanna add that with it. Then if there probably is other things like maybe, transportation for high school would be another
Yeah.
thing that affects,
That's gone up.
if it's gone up, yeah.
It went up just slightly, I think $3 a day per
Yeah.
bus or something.
I mean, if you go through the budget, Greg, and you look at if you look at the.
Location of 30.
Look at the number, the function number.
30, yep.
Anything that ends in a 30 is high school.
We can run
Okay.
a report that pulls it all out.
Alright.
Just run a report. Let's just make a note to run a report.
I would think in
Okay.
comparison high school.
Okay.
So generally, right now, roughly half of the increase is going to Sanborn and half the increase is going to Ellis.
Right, and a good portion of that Ellis is a fixed cost that we can't control, it's health insurance.
Right.
Right.
Which may come down.
Well, it's
Yeah.
9.5% for the insurance increase, plus also you have to remember, we only budgeted for the para insurance for half the year.
Right.
So
That's
then you've
correct.
got
That's true.
That additional cost
Additional
as well,
cost.
which is another 60-some odd thousand.
Right.
Yes.
So in total, your health insurance is, it's up, because what I did was I ran a report before, I got the guaranteed maximum rate from,
Sanborn.
no, from
Oh,
the health insurance, based on, because you have to remember from year to year, your people are gonna change, whether they have a family plan or a single plan or whatnot. So I did the budget before I got my, increase from Health Trust, so I could compare apples to apples, and, let's see, which, yeah, your costs went up about 80, about almost 85,000.
Is that just that's for all over, just
That's
for
for
everybody?
everybody,
teachers
including the
can't.
paras.
Or actually, the
Yes.
paras went up more than that, because we had to add the extra 62,000.
Right, but you would have had to do that
Anyway.
before the 9.2% increase,
right,
you know what I
right,
mean?
yeah.
So that's why I made sure that I kept this report, so we would know exactly how the increase affected us.
Right.
So out of the non-contractual stuff, health insurance and Sanborn, how much did Ellis change?
I have no idea at this
Yeah,
point,
we can
without
run that.
analyzing.
We'll run that for you, so you can have that figure.
Just
I wouldn't say a whole lot, I mean,
Yeah.
in all honesty, it doesn't look that way throwing out all these figures.
It'd just be good to have for,
It's good to have for the budget committee.
yeah.
And just informational to speak to Sue's question about the superintendent function. I just looked at it real quick and it looks like
Health insurance.
88,000 of that is 40,000 for raises for the non-CBA employees, 31,000 is health insurance, 3,000 is course reimbursement, 3,000 is the website, 4,000 is NEASC, and then there's $7,000 for salary differences from employees last year and this year. So that's the bulk of
And you'll see
that
that.
$90,000.
And you'll also see that course reimbursement in a lot of the lines, because what happened was we actually looked at the contracts
The
of
contractual
certain,
stuff.
Right.
and made sure that, and Betsy actually pulled the staff as well to make sure that, we were budgeting those lines correctly,
Right, yeah,
because
we
they
did,
were in their contracts.
yeah, we had that line on page 1 for the sick time buyback, which actually fully funded this contract. So that's why.
Yeah,
I
well,
went-
that's
That's why I
something
went up
different, though,
$8,500, because it
Yeah.
was fully funded,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So yeah, I saw that you added a lot of contractual stuff, of course.
right, because, you're bound
Yeah.
pretty much,
You have-
again, something that you can't change. It's
Yeah.
Looking at historical use, we just went back and looked at this.
Yeah,
Tried to budget appropriately.
because you run into a problem
If you happen to not have it at the end.
yeah,
Yep.
always give it back if, don't use it.
I mean, it does make it difficult you know, to attend to other parts of the budget, and it just costs that keep going up.
That's
I mean,
absolutely true.
they eat into our operating, I mean, they actually eat into what we can do as far as educating children.
Ties your name.
And it's a problem that we face.
Every school district in
Every
that
school district
state is
faces it.
facing it, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we were lucky this year that New Hampshire Times did increase again.
Yes, we are.
That I see as a potential for future years again.
Right.
And, you know, the health costs are really escalating.
You never know what new scheme is gonna be thrown at us.
So, would this be where we want to talk about potentially the information came out last time about the former teachers, that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely go into that. I have a question about the budget summary sheet, Sue.
Yeah.
So the grants and other funds of 135,251 for next year. It's on the second page.
Yep,
Um,
but that is actually,
Isn't that the increase?
because the grants for next year are, yeah, that's the increase over this year. The 135,251 is the increase between the 210 and the 75,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
No, I'm, you know.
Okay, so you're we're banking on getting 210.7 for next year.
And that's a sheet I passed out.
I was thinking we were cutting that.
No.
Okay.
And there's a sheet going, that is with your packet
Yeah.
that supports that 210
Okay.
figure.
Right.
What I'll do is for the, I'll make it so the headers follow on that second page.
That's fine, yep.
Yeah.
I just ripped mine off.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's.
I just kind of whipped it up today. I was like,
No, this is great, this
Good,
helps
thank
to
you.
understand it.
That's a wash anyway. I mean, it's revenues that are expended.
That's
So
correct.
Really, it's a wash.
right, you have to spend the money to get it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You set up front.
So, all right, so, does anybody have any suggestions for anything? Go ahead, Rick. I think you had a suggestion, or something.
Well, to talk about, okay, what Mrs. Spina wrote up last night, I'd like to talk about that in terms of, so, last night, we met, and Mrs. Spina wrote up a proposal on how we could change some things around the budget to keep the teacher and do a half-time for language teacher. I think that's roughly what it was, 0.6.
Right.
Just so we're straight, what does the current budget that we got handed tonight include? Does it include a grade 4 teacher and 5 teacher, or did we take out an FTE?
It
We didn't take
includes-
out an FTE, we left it in.
Last night, you
Right.
said leave everything status quo, and
Okay.
that's what I did.
All right.
So there's no staff cut in
No, there's no.
No.
in this budget?
Okay.
So this is with our 450 teacher cut.
No cuts, no changes.
And no addition either.
And no
No
addition.
addition, right.
Yeah.
But
There's
based
not an
off,
addition for a language teacher.
but based off the stuff that Mrs. Spina had, there was some money that could be
You
moved
could
around.
add it based on what you were presented last night, but that's a decision for you all to make.
Yeah, but it'd be the same bottom line number,
Right.
we'd just be moving monies around.
Right.
Well, one of
You'd
the,
be giving up the ask, and
Yeah.
he would be giving up.
Yeah, we'd be giving some things up.
one of the issues we talked about is in Mr. Savina's proposal, he wanted science to go from every day to the other day.
Right.
And then based on the community survey work that we've done and the importance of science, the question is whether it's important right now to continue building on the science program as we have it, and then go ahead and talk about putting a science lab and keeping science every day and putting off a foreign language teacher.
Can I throw a
Because
piece
we
of-
may not be able to do both.
Can I throw just one, only because I was in on this planning, the number of hours for the science curriculum would actually stay level. We did a calculation of how many minutes the kids have per day right now, multiplied by 180. When we redid the calculations, we were within 10 hours. It really did.
10 hours a semester or 10 hours? a week?
10 hours per year,
Sure.
per child. It was actually very close. And would allow John Herman to run an 8th grade lab one day and a 7th grade lab the next day. And it would actually increase, you know, the 5 or 10 minutes every period of switching things around he could do on 8th grade thing one day and 7th grade. So really, you really wouldn't lose anything.
That said though, I know that Mr. Safina was not interested, I mean, we worked really hard, I think, to get science and social studies every day. So the reason why he came up with this, I think this proposal was as a compromise, and if the community really wanted to have that foreign language position in now, this was just a way to do it that would not impact things quite so much. So this is a proposal, this isn't necessarily something that he is 100% committed or married to. This is him working to try to help everybody figure out what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the parents have spoken that they want science every day and social studies every day.
And he would be 100% supportive of that.
Yeah, and so then how do you fit Spanish in?
Do we have a classroom for Spanish? If we keep the 4th and 5th grades?
The other thing that you want to, that, you know, we talked about as far as adding Spanish at this point too, if you want me to just talk about Sanborn, is, you know, I know that there was some talk about adding Spanish and having kids possibly ready to even go into Spanish too. We haven't even had that conversation with Sanborn yet to see if they could even accommodate
They'd have to
an
prepare.
influx of kids possibly for Spanish too, but they would also want to make sure that our curriculum's aligned and that the kids here were meeting the competencies to even do that. So we haven't even had that preliminary discussion.
Well, I did send off an email to Brian.
Well,
I did tell him about it, he didn't email me back. So, but I think part of the conversation last night was about how much, and I think Don spoke to this a little bit, how much change can the school handle, given the amount of work that they've had to do over the past 2 or 3 years? And how much do we want to burden the school with that kind of change? So, you know, in that respect, a lot of what we talked about last night was giving everybody, you would agree, really taking a deep look at adding foreign language, doing the research with Sanborn, talking with them, looking at the schedule more deeply, and letting the staff breathe, you know, for.
I think the curriculum committee could continue their work.
Yes.
Because what they did is they came back to us saying that if the parents want foreign language, or in the community itself, not necessarily just parents. But we may not be ready to launch it, I suppose. I definitely don't want to see science and social studies taken away every day. And I'd like to see the lab put in. Last night, we also talked about the idea of doing some kind of work with VLAX, if they'll let us, for the kids who would like to do Spanish. And that would be something the curriculum committee could look at too, I suppose, is there options there
Yeah.
for the time being, so that so kids could still have Spanish next year through VLAX, possibly. If they're not in an RTI program, see, Don, I don't know if there's flexibility in the scheduling that way, where if a child doesn't need to go to RTI, could they actually take Spanish?
And we are definitely doing enrichment right now. The question is going to be, right now we have 2 8th grade homerooms and 3 7th grade homerooms, but we don't necessarily have that set up next year because we've got that anti-bubble this year of the 39 8th graders.
Right.
You're not gonna have that next year, so you're gonna have to expand back out to a 3 and 3 situation. We have obviously the teachers to cover that, so it's not gonna affect budgeting.
Right.
But it will affect scheduling, and if you'd like to sit down and play with the schedule, trust me, it's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle that doesn't go together. Trying to get that to happen. We'll make it happen, but, you know, it's difficult to do that, but we'll make it happen.
Is Spanish, is the option to have an after-school program for those kids that want to do Spanish? Is that an option to pay, you know, fund a teacher through John's?
Somebody was saying, I
Cuts.
think, does that.
If we fund a teacher through John's Cuts to do an after-school program versus a curriculum program?
It's something that certainly could be looked into. it's, always a possibility. You have to find someone and provide the space and get the big thing that comes with after-school issues, of course, is transportation. You don't have an after-school bus.
That and sports conflict,
Yes,
if
sports
the kids are
conflict,
into
drama
like
conflict.
the, Eagle League or.
What about the, like, for example, now if a middle school student stays after school, they can take the regular school bus home?
The little kid bus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
how much
'cause I
time
know-
is that though? It's only like 30 minutes, isn't it?
45 minutes.
Oh, it's 45 minutes?
Yeah.
Which
And I
is
know
right there.
Exeter has that tutor program where if you go online, I don't know the website, but you can go online and it actually has certified teachers and tutors and people who are educated in certain
I
fields.
think that's BLAC,
That's
that's what we're
BLAC.
talking
Oh,
about.
okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
where they could actually come in and,
Those are all possibilities, and that's perhaps something to task the curriculum committee with, is looking into that.
Right.
Yeah, because there's teachers on the committee, which is nice because they can help with the scheduling of it. And then there's parents and there's community members, so I mean, I hate to put it off another year, but based on the increase in the budget that we're seeing right now, and two contracts that we are
Yeah,
gonna
we
try to pass.
really want
Um,
to make that the priority this year, is getting the contracts passed.
Right, and would you retain all the stuff that you have, and then the 4th or 5th grade teacher that you were thinking about kind of cutting and putting in the foreign language, would that now stay?
I don't
Every,
think-
all the staff is the
Okay,
same
so
as
this would
this
be
year.
like-
All
the
the
same.
staff is in the budget, but just for clarity, maybe I'm wrong, but I did not see that we were replacing one for the other. The 4th or 5th grade cut came from administration based on the numbers we can do without one teacher. That's how
But I
it came,
think-
it wasn't instead of a,
When I had asked the question last time, I was under the impression that that's where they were coming up with the funding for.
it was, but the cut was not to fund we weren't saying, let's cut a 4th grade teacher so we can fund Spanish. What came to us was, we can do without this teacher because of our numbers, then we can use that money to fund a Spanish teacher because that's what the community wants. It's like two separate things.
but that would make no sense because the kindergarten class currently is less than 30 students. So,
It's 31 right
right,
Kindergarten?
the kindergarten class is
What-
very
Why
small.
are we talking about kindergarten?
No, but what I'm saying, when she's saying it's
Based on
based on
numbers.
numbers, it can't be based on numbers because there's a lot less kindergartners than third graders.
I think what I'm
For
saying is
teachers.
if they had to make that cut, it would make more sense to do it with the older, you
The-
wouldn't want to do
You can
something
put
like
more
that with
kids in
kindergarten.
it. The older kids, you can put more in a classroom and they still will retain and get the information. You wanna keep the younger grades small. You really wanna keep the younger grades small.
It would still be small.
Okay, we're not gonna have conversations back and forth. We're not cutting a 4th or 5th grade teacher. The budget has the teachers in the budget, so there's no worry there, so. What we are trying to banter around as a board is, what do we wanna add? Do we wanna do just put it back to the curriculum committee and let them work out the details with the teachers and the administration and leave it at that?
now. Sure.
Do we want to
Okay,
put
the plan
a
for
warrant
foreign
article
language?
on for foreign language again, which it failed
Yeah.
last time, so I'm not sure that's a good idea.
But if we did it for,
Not
at least
with,
we,
what's that?
if we at least did the article, at least it's an option out there.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
if
but
it
It's not gonna
fails,
hurt- But if it fails, it's not gonna hurt us.
You can't do it.
But don't we need?
We
as
can't
I
do it
said,
next year,
need
but we
all
don't
this
have the money.
Don't we need to research and get all this information? I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and what if that passed? We wouldn't even have
we
anything,
wouldn't be ready.
we wouldn't be
Well,
ready to
so-
actually set it in motion.
You also would have to make sure that you supplied the classroom and had textbooks, et cetera,
So,
as well.
what I'm having a hard time with, every since we sat here last year talking about foreign language and our plan last year was, our goal was to do it this year, I just feel bad as we keep pushing it out.
Mhm.
And if we did the warrant article, at least to give it an option, if it fails, it's no harm, because we don't have one anyways.
How
We can
about
still do
this?
the curriculum
I
committee.
mean, the curriculum committee could try to put something together before we have to put the warrant article on, which is like January.
We have to meet, I don't know if we have time,
Well, I mean,
January
if,
8th or.
I know, it's gonna be, you don't wanna put
And you
together a
can't-
half-assed thing
and if
and
you
have
get-
it fail,
and if you
okay,
warn it,
sorry for the
right.
language, but, so you want to put together something that's useful and something that's
And a
gonna be
clear-
productive
a
and
clear
something that's
plan.
gonna
Well, I
mirror
understand that
Sanborn.
we just, I mean, last year we were essentially in the same place where we talked about doing the foreign language this year. And we're just pushing out, it just feels like we keep pushing. I
Well, the
think-
pro- the